Now, gender equality is a topic that is stressed almost every day globally, and a study conducted by the IMF has seen the urge for women to lead the way in business as an important strategy to improve equality ratings and in turn see countries' economies grow by almost 35%. For more on this report, I am joined in studio by Donna Rachelson, CEO of Branding and Marketing U, and also the author of South Africa's best-selling book, Play to Win, What Women Can Learn from Men in Business. I'm interested to find that out. But let's first start off with the IMF report. That's quite astounding that more women in your senior representation can boost economies by up to 35%. This sounds too good to be true.
So it's really fascinating. There have been a lot of studies internationally. McKinsey International has highlighted that when there is woman representation on boards, company profitability increases dramatically. But I think this is like really astounding, this research that has come out, that is actually saying that countries that are underrepresented in terms of female leadership, if they start to address it, it could impact economies to the extent of 35%. Now, 35% is no small number.
No, not at all, not at all. And especially when you've got an economy, I've just been speaking with a Nedbank economist, South Africa, they're expecting a growth of 0.8%. So we need that 35%. But I mean, Donna, for men who are watching this and thinking, but okay, 35%, how so? What is it that men and women bring to the leadership table that we as men don't currently have? Explain.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You know, I do a lot of work with women entrepreneurs, and what we explain to corporates is that having a diverse supply chain actually makes you competitive. It's not about having women or black people or whatever. Diversity creates competitiveness and ultimately profitability. But, you know, women make great leaders. They are intuitive, they are collaborative, they're very purpose-driven, they manage risk incredibly well. So there's a whole lot of attributes that they bring to the workplace, which are very much kind of the values that are driving business into the next decade. So it makes sense that they take their place at the table. But the problem is that there's a whole lot of kind of institutional history in terms of how the world of work has been kind of created. And that's hence why I wrote my book, Play to Win, What Women Can Learn from Men in Business, is that, you know, the world of work was created by men. And they have kind of established many of the rules by which business is run.
But I imagine a man, though, for me, I feel like if you're a business person, ultimately you're looking to make the most money. So if you know that a way to make more money for your company is to increase diversity on your board, to make more money for your company, to make your shareholders happier, to just make the world a better place, why are companies not buying into it? They clearly don't believe that this is the way.
So I don't think it's a matter of them not buying into it.
Okay.
If you look at the policies, if you look at the strategies, even on a government perspective, in terms of, you know, the representation of women, it all looks great on paper. But much like when a company is implementing a strategy, the rubber hits the road in terms of what happens day to day. And, you know, interesting, there's a lot of research that actually says that kind of we're falling behind in the context of recruitment and promotion of women.
All right, which we know because unemployment figures came out and showed that I think female unemployment is sitting at 41% in this country.
Exactly, exactly. So it's kind of happening at that level. There may be some kind of aspects of gender bias that, you know, are at play. Sometimes we make assumptions of women. Oh, you know, she won't want that promotion because she's got her family and she's got another life outside of work. So sometimes assumptions are made about women, you know, that are kind of barriers. Another big barrier, interestingly, this fascinates me, is that often when we see a man who displays assertiveness in the workplace, that is seen as a positive factor. Whereas if a woman demonstrates, you know, she knows what she's about, what her stand is, and she's quite assertive, her competency is perceived to drop by 35% just by virtue of her displaying those characteristics. So there are those kind of mismatches as well that are happening when women show up in a way that is important for career development.
So how does the system change?
So look, it's not an easy one to change. I think continuing the conversation and creating awareness that actually this is still a reality, you know, where we are today. Gender pay gap sitting at 16%. There are differences that exist. I think that, you know, companies need to look at their recruitment and promotion kind of policies, need to understand any kind of gender biases that existing, to actually start measuring and managing. You know, what are the numbers of women that are being promoted relative to how many are available for possible promotions, and really creating ongoing awareness as well as measurement and education.
I mean, in South Africa's case, we have seen females being promoted to quite senior positions of late, particularly in the legal fraternity and the like. We've got economic policy now that governs, if you want to do business with the government, you need to make sure that at least 30% of that business is coming from women. Do you think that this goes enough or far enough to push the needle, just from a public sector point of view?
So it's interesting. In fact, we're conducting some research for the UN Women to actually understand, given the procurement opportunities, how much is actually set aside for women. And it'll be very, you know, we'll come and share those findings with you, what's actually happening when the rubber hits the road. But in my mind, it's not just about a policy or a strategy. It's actually about an attitude change. And actually an attitude that embraces diversity, that understands its impact in business, and the fact that we all have a role to play to ensure that business wins and our economy grows.
But then ultimately, Donna, I'm sure you'd agree that as women ourselves, we're segmented, right? And the question is, I mean, the majority of black women who are earning less than white women, or who are in a poverty trap of note, how do we balance those nuances on racial lines and on income lines, as well as tackling the ultimate beast whereby it's more equity between men and women?
Sure. You know, it's hugely challenging, and, you know, I think black women face particular challenges by virtue of them being women, plus being kind of, you know, black as well. I think their challenges are absolutely immense, and I deal with quite a few, you know, senior black women who face those challenges. You know, together with other kind of people as well. But, you know, I did write my book, and I don't want to push the book, but just, you know, it focuses on what we as women can think differently and do differently in terms of showing up. So I talk about the fact that, like, business is a game. You know, don't take it personally. You know, say it. It doesn't have to be 100%. You know, don't wait to be noticed. Often as women, you know, we put our head down, we do fantastic work, and we're not really ready to stand up and to kind of sing our praises or to actually take the credit for the work that's been done. We often won't speak out unless it's 100%, whereas often our male colleagues are not as prepared as us, yet they confidently just kind of, you know, put their perspectives on the table. And that does a lot in terms of perception.
Except I'm scared, though, because you say if I do that, then it reduces my competency perception by 35%.
You see, and that's the challenge. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh gosh, Donna, it's always a pleasure to have you in studio. Thanks so much for that discussion. That was Donna Rachelson, CEO of Branding and Marketing U, and author of South Africa's best-selling book, Play to Win: What Women Can Learn from Men in Business.